I'm not.
Hello, and welcome to the live series Straight Off the Bat. Join us on Thursdays as we speak to individuals from multiple industries who will help you understand financial literacy and education. If you're joining us from Facebook, thank you so much. Don't forget to like and follow our page to stay updated with content that will help you manage your money. I'm your host, Pauline Joseph, and today we're discussing why you should think before you click, protecting your digital life in Trinidad and Tobago. We have two guests today. We're so happy they're joining us. First, Shamir Sandler. He is the co-founder and chairman of SmartTerm Limited, one of the Caribbean's leading and fastest growing EdTech companies. What is EdTech? We're going to have to ask Shamir that later. We're also joined by Bradley Ramcharan. He's the director of multinational corporation and government sales at C&W, better known as Cable and Wireless Flow Business. So we have our guests in today. How are we today? Let's bring them in. Hi, Shamir. We want to just make sure your audio is good. Are you sounding good? You feeling good?
Mic check.
Yeah?
Yeah, feeling good. Yeah.
Amazing. And Bradley, how are you feeling being not in Trinidad for Carnival Friday?
Well, I'm actually traveling back tonight, so hopefully
Oh, wow. Like a true Trini. I love it. So, it's so interesting. We start this conversation with two Trinis and a Jamaican walk into a bar and start talking about digital conversations. Let's start there, right? I feel like it's a good theme. So let's start with Bradley. When it comes to the internet, which is a place that a lot of us unfortunately can't live without, why is it important for a telecommunications provider to invest time and resources in communication, community education, especially for young people in this digital space that we're in?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. As a telecom provider, we don't just deliver connectivity, I would say, right? We deliver a gateway to the digital world. And with that type of access comes, responsibility. And we're here to kind of help people to navigate that particular space, especially, young people growing up, anybody that use technology. We have to be able to help them use it safely and confidently. So when we invest in, educating anyone, even persons internal to our organization or external, we want to help them protect themselves online. So how do we manage their digital choices? How do we manage how they navigate the internet complexities? For us, this particular space is not a nice to have to say we should know, we should not know how to navigate. It's an essential part of how we go through our day-to-day. So we want everyone to not only be connected as a provider, but to be empowered, informed, and protected as they explore the digital world.
Thanks for that, Bradley. And I think this is a great segue to ask Shamir, because as I introduced him, he's part of a EdTech company. What does that even mean? For someone who's watching this maybe in the 80s, is like, what does EdTech even mean? Could you expand on that?
Right, sure. So EdTech is like the buzzword, right, for education technology. And in education technology, you have different facets, different streams. So you have everything from learning management, right? So the way you learned back in 1980, 1990, when I was in school, I had physical books, right, that I had to read and had to write in. Learning today, when you think about the LMS environment, it's all digital, mostly digital. So you're using like the learning management tools from like SmartTerm, for example. Your homework is online, your classwork, your quiz is online, your exams are online. So there's different modalities. So when you think about EdTech, think about the digitizing of education and education infrastructure. The way we record information, for example, the filing cabinet versus the online cloud databases, right? The way you deliver information, which is like the learning management environment, the way you manage school data, which is like the school management system. the way even governments, for example, in St. Vincent, the entire government has digitized education. So every school has the data digitized, right? And so when you kind of look at that environment, even the governments have a role to play in digitizing education, a massive role to play. And so they have an education management information system. So across the facets of EdTech, you have different players and different streams, but it's really the digitizing of education.
And it's so interesting because, you know, we have a lot of negativity surrounding the internet and all the things that are, you know, not necessarily the most positive things, but there's so many great things coming out of it. So I'd like to ask Bradley, when it comes to Flow and Liberty Business, why is it important to collaborate like with folks like Bankers Association of Trinidad Tobago when it comes to Safer Internet Day? And why is a conversation that we need to have not just with
you'll get me.
people, but like, you know, the younger folks as well? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I mean, safe internet is important. You're hearing me, right?
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, locked in.
Okay. So I mean, partnering is important, right? Simply because we need to share. I mean, there's so many risks as you navigate the internet, right? You have cyber threats, you have the way you position yourself online, the data that you share online, and partnering with Bankers Association and any association, as you would say, helps us to be able to share what we learn, share what we know, and make sure that persons out there truly understand how to navigate the online platform and the digital world. Yeah.
Okay. So when it comes to
your question,
yeah, we heard you. We got you loud and clear. Got it. Thank you so much for that. So Shamir, within the educational space, you know, what are you seeing? What are the things? What are the trends when it comes to being safe on the internet? What's the biggest challenge are you seeing with users on the internet?
All right. Yeah. So on the internet, there's a couple, well, in terms of schools, students, education teachers, there are a couple of different challenges. Let me just give a real life example. I don't know if you remember when COVID, well, everybody remembers COVID. We were all locked inside. But yeah, during COVID, everybody had to go online. So Zoom calls, Google Meets, etc. And you had a lot of Zoom bombing is what it was called. I don't know if you guys remember the whole Zoom bombing situation, right? And persons just hopping onto Zoom calls and joining class with students and, you know, showing, you know, imagery or videos that they shouldn't be showing, that type of thing. You know, when you think about persons hacking teacher profiles, changing grades, you think about persons impersonating students. And the biggest one is cyberbullying, where students were bullying other students, right? In the space that we're in, we look at like 3 different key things when it comes to protecting students and school data in general is, how do we protect our administrators with the power and access from being hacked and data being leaked? That's a big thing because our student information is very, very important. And so that kind of education around navigation is something that SmartTerm takes really, really important. We take a strong stance on that because at the end of the day, the student information is misused. It could cause a lot of damage. When it comes to the teachers, teaching them, a lot of our teachers and the really, really good ones, and I'm sure you guys remember the really, really good ones, they're chalk and talk, right? And what that simply means, they're on the whiteboard, they're doing their thing, but they're really good teachers. Their transition online wasn't easy. And so in navigating that, you know, teaching them to set strong passwords, use password managers, just help them to navigate the space, and so that they're not taken advantage of, because now they have to enter their grades digitally. If they're not careful, you'd seen cases where persons would try to manipulate grades because the teacher needed help. And so you kept saying, no, the students in your class can't actually help you do this. Like, you have to navigate this in a safer way. It's actually pretty dangerous. And then on the student side, we have to teach them to use password managers. You can't use password 123 to log into your profile. And you have to be careful of the sites that you're navigating, the Discord channels that you're joining, where the cyberbullying is happening. You have to understand that space and be aware of it. But more importantly, the parents. A lot of parents weren't ready for what happened out of COVID. COVID was something that happened that I used to send my child to school with a backpack and go to school and join your class, right? And then parents were just thrusted into this environment where every child now needs a device, a laptop, a tablet. and the proper management for parents weren't really in place. They don't know how to monitor their child's device. They don't know how to monitor what they're accessing. And so when you talk about education and safety, you have the administrators that are controlling such a large data set, whether that's a government official or the principal at a school, and they need to know how to protect their students' data. You have the teachers who are navigating attendance and grades, which are very important to those students moving forward through schooling because of the way our school is set up. You need GPAs, you need to send them to college, they need to prepare for CXC. Those are very important things. And if the metrics are skewed or if the data is tampered with, it's hard to tell where the interventions are needed or where improvements might be needed. On the student side, you want them to navigate in a safe way because you don't want them to be bullied. You don't want them to be led down the wrong path on the internet and going into things that they shouldn't be going into, etc. And then from the parents' perspective, because they're actually very important in education, they need to know how to monitor their children at home and help them with this kind of digital education space. So multiple facets. I think training is what is required, a lot of touch points with these different stakeholders to ensure that they can navigate this in a safe way.
Such an interesting perspective, Shamir, because it's really about change, right? And it happened pretty quickly while, that should not be named, that particular event that we're all still recovering from. So it's interesting to hear that perspective from the students and the teachers' side. So Bradley, being in the B2B space, especially with Flow and Liberty Business, can you share some challenges that companies face in that same breath in terms of using the internet?
Yeah, it's another good question. So, I mean, cybersecurity is a very broad topic. One thing we know that the threats are real. Whether you're a student, a parent, or a business, you're susceptible to a cyber attack, right? It doesn't matter who you are, you're a target. Once you are digital, you are a target. So how do you prepare for that is very important. And Shamir talked about it a little bit in terms of training, making sure that you have mobile management and those different things. So if you take a step back, if you're someone who is in the digital space, you can be exposed to phishing attacks, malware, identity theft, or even account takeovers. We see all these different things. Businesses are being targeted through email fraud. That's a big one. That's one of the major ways that hackers are getting into your profile or getting into your business by simply sending you an email, making it seem like it's very real. You click on it and suddenly you're exposed and you're exposed to a ransomware attack and so on. So businesses really need to strengthen their cybersecurity posture, as we would say, and put the tools in place to protect emails, put the tools in place to train and educate your staff or anyone who's going to use the internet to be able to do their work. Another one I would say is, from an online behavioral perspective, Shamir touched on it. Cyberbullying is very real, and sometimes oversharing. We overshare, even in your personal life or even in business. You go to a conference, do you need to share it all the time? You have to be very careful in what you say and what you share, because you can be a target regardless of your where you sit. He touched a bit on data privacy. There's so many scams happening in the data privacy world as well. And you have to be able to protect your data, be it on your phone, be it on your laptop, be it your emails. We really need to look at organizations and figure out how do we help them to protect themselves. And cybersecurity is a very broad topic. So, we're here to help. We can support you in a way of protecting your emails. We can support you mobile management. We can have a conversation with you and steer you in the right direction. To close on it for me would be, while these risks are very real, it's not to scare anyone, right? It's not to say, hey, I don't click on this email. But with the right habits and the right awareness, with the right people sharing and interacting with you, we can manage those risks. And that's all cybersecurity is about for a business, a student, a parent. It's really about managing risk.
So once again, I am clearly in COVID mode. My mic was on mute. All right. So we're going to go on a break, but when we come back, I would like our guests to answer the question, what is a digital footprint? We'll be right back. And welcome back to Straight Off the Bat, a show that helps you understand financial literacy and education. Thank you so much for joining us today. And if you're doing so from YouTube, thank you. Don't forget to subscribe to our page to continue seeing content that will help you manage your money. I'm your host, Pauline Joseph, and today we're covering the topic, you need to think before you click, and protecting your digital life in Trinidad and Tobago. Our guests today are Shamir from SmartTerm and Bradley from CNW, that's known as Cable and Wireless, Flow Business. So just before the break, we were talking about all this risk, that is involved with the internet and clicking emails and managing this life that we've been shifted to when it comes to education online. So the word footprint is easy to understand, especially if you walk on the beaches and the sands of the Caribbean. But when it comes to a digital footprint, who wants to take a stab at it and first answer what that is?
Sure. And Bradley kind of mentioned it earlier today. I'm what you call a delayed poster, right? When I go anywhere, whatever, I'm a delayed poster, never really in the time or the moment. But that's kind of me. What a digital footprint is that anything you put on the internet, whether it's a tweet, a post on Instagram, TikTok, etc., you might genuinely think that are even posting a blog on your website or on a website or commenting on, say, a Reddit post. Anything that you do, it creates some type of footprint, right? And I'll talk about the public visible ones, and then I'll talk about the hidden ones, right? And so in the public ones is like things that are intentional, like you intentionally wanted to put something out on the internet. The minute it gets there, it's on the cloud, right? And so it's somewhere on somebody's server. It never goes away. And in most cases, they might tell you that they're deleting it, but it's not actually deleted. I think Snapchat got in trouble for this, where persons thought that when I deleted my Snapchat post, it was actually gone. But no, it was in some server dormant somewhere, right? Even though not accessible to the public, it's still out there. And so it's never really fully gone. And so in most cases, like you can't so before you post, before you do anything, please just be mindful of what is really going on when you think about that public or digital footprint, right, that you're putting out there. I'll talk about a second one that is not really clear to others, but it is a thing. On your Android, on your iPhones, when even though you're not posting it on Instagram, even though you're not posting it on any social media platforms, it's on your phone, and that phone is synced to a cloud. That means it's on somebody's server somewhere. Whatever pictures, images, notes, text messages, it is on somebody's server. So I know that people always think that a digital footprint have to do with posting on social media or posting on some website. No, it's also your phone. Your phones are cloud enabled. And even though they try to give you tooling and security features on your phones to lock them down, nah, it's still a digital footprint that you have in a more private way, but it's there. And so it can always be accessed. I know you guys watch a lot of movies, so you probably see where they took somebody's phone after they deleted the photos and the pictures and the text messages, and they plug it in and they pull off all the records that you had since you had the phone, right? There is a footprint there as well. So you have to be mindful of that as well. So be careful how you use your personal devices. It does not have to be social media or websites. The next thing we don't talk about a lot, and this was our biggest worry during the COVID period, is that some of the tooling that was being used for classroom delivery, right, actually was tracking everything that you're doing. You don't have to be intentional by posting or whatever. It's just by navigating the internet, by you clicking on ads, clicking on products you want to buy, even the tooling that students and parents are using for learning. All of those actions, those clicks, you could have just been doing your homework. It's tracking you. It's watching the sources, it's looking at your cookies and the things that you're interacting with. And that's a hidden digital footprint where a lot of companies all across the internet have billions of data points on how you interact with the internet. And that's a footprint, but it's not visible to you. But if I was to go to a site today and say, hey, I want to shop, they're going to show me things I'm interested in. I've never been to that website. The reason why, there's like a hidden digital footprint on who Shamir Sadler is and what I like to do on the internet. And so there's three things, like I said before, is when you're intentional, you're the one doing the posting, you're the ones putting it out there. Two, you're in the comfort of your space with your phone, etc. There's a footprint there that you're not really aware of, but it's stored on some cloud servers. And then three is the hidden ones, all the clicks, all the actions, those things are digital footprints as well, and billions of data points on how you interact with the internet.
Yes, it's such an interesting conversation because I hear it's very difficult for me because I hear people thinking it's magic. They're like, oh my gosh, they're listening to our phones. I'm not disputing that they are or they aren't, but there's such a wealth of information just by how you connect online, how you use your mouse. Actually, you can tell where someone spends most of their time, and that's how Facebook knows that you like a specific video because you spent more time on that than something else where you may have scrolled through. So in the same vein in the conversation, Bradley, I would like you to discuss the conversation around posting, social media, and how this affects businesses, because there's this very precarious position to be in, because you have employees, right? And employees still are human, and they do post things. At the same time, it's like, is it that they're representation of the company? But in addition to that, someone looking for a job, we may have posted something in jest, and then you want to know why you didn't get that job. So we're going to put you on the spot, Bradley. Give us some insight.
No, that's fine. I think Shamir shared a lot on the technical side of it and how it works. So I just want to reiterate, every time you go online, you're basically creating a digital footprint. Even if your phone is offline, say you travel and you're not roaming, as soon as your device connects, you start sharing, right? Once you're using any tool that connects to the internet, every post, every like, every comment, every message, even your searches, as you say, why is my phone or my application suggesting things for me? And sure enough, for businesses, it's really around employees as well, right? What they do. And sometimes we have this mindset that things disappear on the internet. Just because you don't see it, it disappears. And it doesn't, right? Even deleted posts, messages, it can be saved, it can be screenshot. You're having a bad day in the office, you say something about your manager, and then you realize, oops, maybe I made a bad decision and I shouldn't say that, because I was so emotional in the moment, and you take that down. But guess what? Person A screenshots it and sends it out. You can't take those things back. So from a business perspective, we have to be, we really have to educate our workforce, our resources on the impact of going digital and actually sharing online and so on. And, the internet never forgets, right? There's reputational damage that you really can't take back. It takes so much time to repair things that, someone may say out of context. Someone may say because they might be in an emotional state, or simply sharing something that we say, hey, I'm sharing this with you internally. It's not something we would like to make public knowledge today. And we hope that you keep that until we're ready to really share with the public, right? So, those are the things that really impacts businesses and organizations. Sometimes it's also opportunities can be gained or lost from it. The things that you post online, imagine everything we do today, we pick up our phone. You have a question, you pick up your phone, you either Google it. You say, hey, I think I want to work for this company. You start looking this company up. And once people start creating that digital footprint about that business or company or product or service that you provide, opportunities could be gained or it could be lost because of it. So truly educating your workforce, truly managing the policies that you have, because you could control some of those things, right? There are policies where you can say no social media between the hours of 8 to 4. You can use your firewalls and basically block those things. You can only give access to emails. So there's different ways that businesses can manage how their employees or communication about their organization goes out, and you know, safeguard them in that way. Painting that picture of your business is very critical.
It's such an interesting conversation because there are many posts that I've seen on multiple social media platforms, including LinkedIn. And I was thinking, you know what? This could have been a journal entry. We didn't need to know this, you know? And I want to say this to anybody out there, buy a journal. Start there. And if after you write that, how you felt, and you still want to post, then that's when you should post it. Because there's this level of immediacy that people want to have when they have feelings. And there's repercussions because both of you mentioned, Bradley and Shamir, that your digital footprint does not just go away. And screenshots are a dime a dozen. So I have a few other questions, but I want to head over to Facebook. We have Nicholas Singh. I think we can't have an internet conversation without having a ChatGPT question. What are your thoughts on the caricature trend with ChatGPT?
All right. I did it. I did it. Just not needed to see, but I think one of the things, it was a cool way to get the app trending again after losing some steam. So I think people, it was a good marketing play by the company. Kudos to them. But it just showed me how many data points they're collecting on people. Persons believe that they're just searching, doing research. It's not like back in the day of using Wikipedia, right? It's literally learning you inside out and everything that you need. Everybody's using for everyday things. So I was surprised to see all the data points it had on me, like the subtle things, even the picture frame in the background, what it said. I'm just like, oh yeah, I did ask it about this 2 months ago. Interesting. And so it's just capturing all these data points. What I'm nervous about is how they will use it. I'm not sure, but it just underscores the point that no matter what you're using online, and you might think it's innocent, they're actually learning a lot about you. And one thing we can hope is that they're not misusing it. It was a cool trend though. I liked it. I liked what they came up with. Kind of summed up my life correctly, but again, at the end of the day, I'm kind of nervous about the data points it has.
Well, I too am guilty of creating my own version of Bobby. I did a few versions of it because it's not as accurate with people of darker hue. But like you said, all of this is just data collection because they have so much about data. And I always say, follow the money, that's where it's gonna go head to. And Bradley, did you join into caricature? Bradley, did you?
Actually, I didn't. Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, we can hear you.
No, I didn't. I actually saw most of my friends doing it, but I'm very wary of information being shared. So I maybe I didn't get around to it, but for me, I always look at the risk. So it's just so easy that these trends could come up, and then we're so open to sharing our data. And what always makes me smile is if a government agency or someone is saying, hey, can you come in so I could take a picture of you, take your biometrics? You might be like, I don't think what are you using this data for? But we're so easy to be able to just upload biometrical information online, and you don't know what they're doing with it. Who is the fine print anyway, right? We simply just do it for the trending sake, and then we're not sure what happens with that data later on. So didn't get around to doing it, but just I'm always wary of where your information, your photos, your digital footprint is going.
Such an important point, Bradley, because I think the question around sharing your data has to do with the ease, right? So that public sector versus private sector, it's much easier for us to go ahead and give our data because it's online, it's in an environment we're familiar with. But when you have to go in and have to fill out all these forms, we as humans are like, ooh, this is just too much. And in that same kind of question and like offline, online, we have something in a safe, for instance, and we have to put in a code, right? Like, when you go to a hotel and there's a safe and you have to put in a code. But when it comes to the internet, passwords, I think it is so important to have that conversation around passwords. And I want you guys to think about that because we're going to go on a break. But when we come back, we want to talk about the challenges that we folks have with creating passwords, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is not one. Okay, so we'll be right back.
Tired of feeling lost when it comes to your money? Want to make your money work more for you? Then tune in to Straight Off the Bat, brought to you by the Bankers Association of Trinidad and Tobago. Every Monday at 8:30 p.m. on TV6, right after the news. We'll give you practical tools and strategies to help you manage your money wisely, from budgeting basics, debt management, to wealth creation. We'll cover it all. No jargon, just straight talk. Join our host, Pauline Joseph, as she speaks to experts across the industry to empower you to take control of your money. Straight Off the Bat, Mondays at 8:30 p.m. on TV6. Brought to you by the Bankers Association of Trinidad and Tobago.
And welcome back to Straight Off the Bat, a show that helps you understand financial literacy and education. If you're joining us from LinkedIn, don't forget to subscribe to our page to continue seeing content that will help you manage your money. I'm your host, Pauline Joseph, and today we're covering the topic, why you need to think before you click, protecting your digital life in Trinidad and Tobago. We're joined by Shamir Sandler. He is the co-founder and chairman of SmartTerm Limited, one of the Caribbean's leading and fastest growing EdTech companies, as well as Bradley Ramcharan. He is the director of multinational corporations and government sales at CMW Flow Business. So we're going to bring them back in. And just before the break, we were looking at this inevitable conversation around passwords. So before we get into the password conversation, could you elaborate, especially when it comes to a lot of students, about privacy settings? Because we sign up, and one of the biggest lies on the internet is, I have read these terms and conditions, right? So let's start with Shamir in the EdTech space. What are some of the things, what's the biggest thing you think that people are missing in the privacy settings conversation?
Yeah, I think a lot of times, like, there's a concept of opt-in and there's a concept of opt-out. And I'll explain both of them, and I'll start there. In most cases, the companies that want to collect your data, right? Because data is king on the internet, right? In the offline world, they say cash is king. Online, it's data is king, right? It can be sold and sold for a lot of money, right? And so there's a concept of opt-in and opt-out. So anybody listening to this, understand the websites that you're on, and how to use them. So in most cases, it's an opt-out, meaning when you click that button and you say, hey, I agree to the terms and conditions, you're agreeing to opt into whatever it is they want to capture on you and share about you, right? And so even if you don't want to read it, I understand it's 40 pages, right? Let's be realistic here. Most cases we don't read it, and I'll just be honest on the call, I don't always read it, right? But one of the things I do is go to the settings and I look at what they're capturing, and if I can opt out of anything, I do that. I do that with my WhatsApp, I do that with my Instagram, I do that with most of the platforms that I use. I look at the privacy settings, and I tend to try to opt out of things, right? And so that I'm not sharing my information. Some of them make it tedious for you to opt out of the things that you're in. So just go to YouTube and just look up, how do I get out of these settings on Facebook or Instagram? And they'll tell you, and they'll give you step by step on how to do it. But most times by clicking that button or checking the box that says, I read this, you're opting into a lot of things. So learn that concept of opt-in, opt-out. The next thing I'll say is, if you're going on a site and you don't really know what it's about, guess what you have today? You have something called AI, and you have the popular one called ChatGPT. Download it, copy and paste it in, and say, hey, what is it that I'm signing up for? Give me the 10 biggest risks in these terms and conditions or policy that this website have. It will tell you quickly too, and that's probably less than 10 seconds. It will tell you immediately what are all the things that you're signing up for, so you understand the risk before getting in there. So you might not want to read 40 pages, but you have like a really good tool that can do it in 5 seconds and tell you your risks. So I would suggest using that in the future. If you're signing up on a website, you see terms and conditions and privacy policies that you don't really quite understand or you don't want to read, look it up and see what they're doing.
Thank you so much for that, Shamir. I think a lot of us are so excited to be part of a community online we skip that part where we need to understand what we're committing to. But in addition to that, these are tools, right? So ChatGPT is great to create images, and now it's updated with videos and so forth. But it's such great tools to help you be better at navigating online on the internet. So with that said, Bradley, can you tell us a little bit more about passwords? Because you're obviously on the business side, but we're also talking about this a safer internet day. But it's impossible to have a safer internet without having a good password, as well as the additional steps that are now included, which is authentication factor.
Two-factor authentication, yeah. I would like to start by saying to my audience, most breaches today, if you do the research, isn't caused by complex hacking. Yeah? We look at the vulnerable, right? They're caused by weak reused passwords. One strong password could be the difference between a minor incident and a major data leak in your personal space or where you work. We have multiple applications, and remembering passwords is so hard. Yes, you can store it in the Samsung KeyPass and Apple and all these different things. But then you also have these applications that may push you, let's say in your business, to change your password every month. You have to remember that sometimes, right? So what you try to do, you try to mimic something or reuse passwords across the board, makes it easy and seamless for you. And what that does is really makes it much easier, makes you a much easier target for persons. You will see your phone sometimes tells you, my phone tells me this today, this password is reused too many times, or it's too weak, or it's been seen online in a data leak, you should change it, right? So we have mechanisms in place that try to help you to do those things. But I think something that really needs to sink in for everyone here is most breaches today is just based on us just, I would say being lazy or trying to look at convenience rather than protecting ourselves. So, what does a strong password really means? We have our internal rule. We aim for 14 to 16 characters, long passwords with, special characters, uppercase, lowercase, special characters, and so on. New is using phrases that kind of helps you understand, say, I love my daughter, or I went to the beach, or something like that. A phrase that you use special characters in really makes it hard. It could be the lyric to one of your favorite songs, but what we try to do when we create these passwords is, create something complex enough that it's very hard to breach. Shamir said it before, we talked about using AI just to kind of help you about our application, figure out what feature should I turn off? Should I give it access to my camera? Should I give it access to my photos? It's really important to use the tools that are available to us. If you're unsure how a complex password can be, jump in ChatGPT or something, Google it, get the guidance, and create something very strong that really protects you. You also touched a bit on two-factor authentication. That's also another layer that gives you added protection. All right, so if you're resetting your password, it doesn't go to the phone or the email address that's on your phone. It can go to someone else. So if someone is, if you're in a situation where someone holds you up, they're trying to get access to your phone, the reset password doesn't go to an email address that is on that device, or the text message doesn't go to that particular device. And all those things are really set up to help you. So, a good rule of thumb, 14 to 16 characters, use special characters, avoid predictable patterns, as you mentioned, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or password 1, 2, 3. I had that at one point in time. I have to say that. But again, focus on the rules, make something strong. Random words, special characters, personal twists really makes it very hard for someone to come up or figure out the password, even if they're using an AI tool to try to look at all the different algorithms to come up with that password.
So for me personally, because, well, I run a business entirely online, and it's so tiring. Passwords in itself, I feel it's a whole job because we have obviously so many different platforms we use. But one of the things that I do is I create a little goal of mine, a little personal goal that I've literally never told anybody. And that's my password, where I throw in a few @ signs, a few characters, and that's worked for me so far, knock on wood. So if anybody out there listening, that could be one of the things, because it's extremely hard. Let's be honest, when we are trying to figure out all these different passwords. And again, people, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is not one. So
right. One of the things I'll throw in before, I use a password manager, right? I use LastPass. There's also 1Password, and there's also offline ones that you can use that are not cloud-based, right? But yeah, I just got to a point where my passwords are so long, and I handle so much sensitive information, I can't remember anything, and I don't want to like write them down in a book. So the reality is that I use a password manager that is behind like a master key that is really hard to crack, and it has 2-factor authentication. So LastPass, I'll throw it out there. So LastPass, if you want to use that one, or 1Password, or the 2 popular password managers that you can use. And Google Chrome has a built-in password manager that you can use as well. Apple, if you have an iPhone, has a password manager built into your phone. So I would encourage using password managers, because usually password managers are hard to hack, right, and get into. But that's probably the best bet at kind of remembering these passwords.
yeah, and Firefox also has one. Majority of the browsers do have one. So it's just part of, being part of the internet. These are the steps now, folks, that we have to take. It doesn't make sense, saying it's too much work, because the reality is we're living in a technology age, and we are doing things that our ancestors never dreamed of. So when we speak about the internet, obviously we have to have a conversation on AI. And BATT had an event in collaboration with Trinidad Tobago to observe Safer Internet Day at BATT Secondary School. And one of our guests today, Shamir, you spoke at this event, and you discussed AI and smart technology helping students better understand both the opportunities and risk associated with emerging technologies. So can we get a little insight into that conversation you had with the students?
Yeah, sure. So the conversation was around AI, artificial intelligence, what it is and how you can use it in what you're doing, and use it in a safe way. And so we talked about digital footprint. We talked about leveraging it for schoolwork, and how they can use that to enhance their learning, and use it to help them with critical thinking. We talked a bit about how they can use it for the entrepreneurs that were in the room, how they could use that for building businesses, and how everything is possible now, because you have these tools. At the time, I gave an example of a very expensive degree I received from the US when I went to college. And I was just like, they're in a time where you can get 10 degrees for $0, right? The gains that they have today by using these tooling is like there's no ceiling. There's just literally no ceiling. Like the sky is the limit. And so kind of encourage them to use AI to go after what they want and use it in their everyday life. It is a really good tool. However, challenge it. Right? Ask it simple questions like, how confident are you in this answer? Give me another way to do this particular problem, right? Challenge it and ask them for their confidence scores. By doing that, you're also challenging yourself, and you're also thinking outside the box. You're not just taking the first answer that you receive, because you need to know the base concepts, and you need to know why it is that it gave the answer that it gave. So challenge it as much as you can. AI for me is something that, especially in my line of business, like from my engineering perspective, it's like having 100 mini engineers that report to me, and I can just tell it what to do. So I use it really effectively in that kind of setting as a tool. What I've encouraged them to do is use it in a safe way. Don't enter personal information to an extent to where it could be used against you, because there's a footprint there as well. ChatGPT, I believe, just mentioned that they can turn over your chats to law enforcement if you need to. So different things like that. So just use it in a safe way, use it in a smart way. It's a tool. It's like Wikipedia or Google search, right? Use it in that way and get what you need from it. You don't need to be putting in your personal information. Because there's a digital footprint there. So be smart about how you use it. But it's just a tool that You can become anything you want in this world because you can do it for $0. There's no $40,000 barrier to entry in learning a particular topic anymore. It's right in the palm of your hands. And if you want to learn, go for it. If you want to build a business, you can start today.
Thanks for that, Shamir. It's such an interesting conversation, and I want to expand on risk, especially with students and businesses, with Bradley, but we're going to do that right after the break. And welcome back to Straight Off the Bat, a show that helps you understand financial literacy and education. Thank you so much for joining us today. And if you're doing so from Facebook, don't forget to subscribe to our page. Continue seeing content that'll help you manage your money. I'm your host, Pauline Joseph, and today we're covering the topic, Think Before You Click, Protecting Your Digital Life in Trinidad Tobago. We're joined by Shamir Sandler and Bradley Ramcharan, and we don't have much time, so we're going to just go straight into our last couple of questions. So just before the break, we were talking about, utilizing AI, especially when it comes to students and using these things as a tool. But we want to find out from Bradley, especially coming from a perspective in flow business, what are some of the digital risks that we need to be mindful of? Give us the top 3. Oh, you're on mute there, Bradley. You're on mute.
Yeah, sorry.
There we go. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So for me, we've talked about it a lot. Cyber threats, right? That is the biggest risk that I see in a lot of cases. You have phishing attempts, you have malware attempts, you have identity theft. Those are all the different things that we see from a business perspective that is very prominent in terms of risk as it relates to digital, right? From it, when you look at phishing, you have malware that's going to install on your device when you click something. So really, cyber threats for me, it's a very big part of managing that risk in your organization. And there's so many different things that businesses could do, right, to manage that risk. You have staff training. We talked about it before. Awareness matters. If you don't train your staff, how can they truly be able to make the right decisions when they see certain things? Imagine you get an email, you say, hey, I'm emailing you from HR. I need you to send your information across because we're doing salary reviews or something. So you get really excited because you think you're getting an increase in salary. And then suddenly you reply with all your personal data. And then you wonder why, something happens. And sometimes you're not even sure that breach or attack really came from that email that you respond. So, you really need to train your staff regularly. What we sometimes do is quarterly, monthly sessions where we do email blasts out to the organization and we really rate our risk factor to see how many persons actually reported it, how many persons did not click. And these are mandatory things. I think that helps with your posture as well. Creating strong passes, as you mentioned before, updating your software and security tools. Outdated tools makes it really easy for hackers to get in and makes you easy targets as well. Using secure connections. We talked about policy making earlier on, having a written policy explaining the reasons why. So it's truly around educating your space, right? Safety isn't about limiting your freedom, as you mentioned, as I touched on before. It's really about making smart choices. And how do we go about doing that really, really matters in the workspace.
All right. So I want to talk about myths. So when we are online and we spend so much time, I look around now and it's quite amazing. We're all like in our phones, maybe, I don't know, we'll evolve as a species with our heads turning down. But what's one of the biggest myths that you can basically squash in terms of what people think out there? So, Shamir, you want to start?
Myths. Boy. Most of the times, if it's trending, it's true. I'm joking. That's a big one.
You want to think about it and have Bradley come on? And Bradley, you have one there? You're on mute there, Bradley.
Sorry, I'm gonna weigh in here, just because of time, and I have to leave at the top of the hour. Two really big ones comes to mind to me. I know you asked for one, but then I give you two. One on the student side, just because Shamir shared that he spoke to students on AI and so on, and even for us, everyone online isn't who they say they are, right? We can pose online behind our laptops and be anything we want to be. Fake identity is very common. So a myth is everyone online isn't who they say they are. But the other one that for me, and I'm just going to touch on the very beginning of the conversation we had, is if I delete it, it's gone. It's a
Bradley, you put yourself on mute there. We missed it there. Try again.
okay. I don't.
Oh wow!
Keep going. I don't know why. I'm not even touching anything. So did you get the first one or not?
Yes.
Yeah, we got the first one.
All right. The second one for me would be just going right back to the top of our conversation. If it's deleted, it's gone. That's a myth.
Oh wow, we're definitely having a problem there. Yeah, I can hear you. Oh yeah, I'm not sure what's happening there.
Okay, yeah. I'm gonna land very quickly and then I'm gonna go on mute. I would say if it's deleted, it's gone. That's a very big myth. We touched on it at the beginning of the conversation around deleting a digital footprint. If it's deleted, it's not gone. It's somewhere on the internet or on someone's phone.
Yeah, I can even add to that to say, even when you delete something, there's another step in deleting it, right? Because it goes to the trash. And I'll never forget, I had a very techie friend because I deleted something by mistake in trash on my laptop. And he was like, that's okay. We have a couple of days. I could still restore it. And I was like, what? So I can't imagine what the equivalent of that is going to be like with when you have things like the cloud, right? So Shamir, you want to chime in there?
Yeah, that like everything, the internet is anonymous. That's one of the things that people think, like, if you wanted to kind of like surf the internet, etc., it's anonymous. No, it's really not. Everything you do, that digital footprint, it comes right back at you. It's not anonymous. They know exactly who you are, down to where you live, based on the IP address that you're using. It's not anonymous. And if you think you're being smart by using a VPN, the cookies and the trails follow you. You can always come back to you at some point. So it's not really anonymous. I think that the second one is kind of what Bradley spoke about earlier with everything you see is true. The deep fakes are so strong these days, right? I think when I was at Faisabad Secondary, I spoke about, like, I could have put a filter on right now and you think I'm Marshall Montano, right? Speaking, mannerisms, everything sound like him, right? But it's not him. And so there's going to be a lot of that going on in the future, of persons impersonating others, putting out videos you would think that it was actually true. And so there's going to be a lot of things. So how you fact checked is going to be very important in the future. And AI as a tool can help you fact check things. You can fact check blogs, you can fact check videos, you can fact check images, right? And a couple of the students participated and they mentioned a couple of ways in which you could do that, in which you could go to the official website for the particular blog or post and see if they actually posted it. You can go to the page of the individual that's being impersonated to see if they actually did post that or if they did put that out. You can run it through an AI tool, deep research, and figure out if that thing actually happened. You can use AI to check for any distortion in the videos that could tell you that, hey, no, this was generated by AI and you shouldn't believe it. It's more than likely not true. There's a couple of things that you could do, but reality is, don't. I think always verify, right? I think one of the colleagues that was at FASBAT said, verify first, right? Just assume it's not true, and always lean on the side of verification first. So, yeah.
I'd also like to add to that, because when it comes to deepfake and feeling threatened and cyberbullied, there's a lot of emails out there that has jobs like, oh, we have this job position for you, and people fall for it obviously because they are looking for a job. One of the things that I've found that works is Reddit's actually amazing crowdsourcing that information, because if you copy and paste the exact email that was sent to you, they will say, I got this email, and you'll see this thread of conversations verifying that it's in fact not real, because it's getting so good now. Like, I saw one that had Microsoft logo, and like the R and the O wasn't in the right place, but your mind sees Microsoft. So it's a very difficult place to navigate, but we all have to namaste and do the research. So last question, when it comes to this, having a safe internet day, what is your advice if someone feels as if they're being bullied online? What's the first step they should do?
Yeah, always remember that, especially in the student realm, always remember that, your parents, even if you believe they're not digitally inclined, your parents are, your first line of defense. Escalate. Go to your parents immediately and communicate. If you don't have a parent, go to your guardian that you can talk to. Go to your teacher that you can talk to. In most cases, they can help you. Sometimes I know you feel like you're helpless. I know you feel like you don't have a choice in some of the cases, but you always do. Because at the end of the day, the damages that can happen if you try to solve it yourself sometimes is irreparable. So what I would say is always lean on your guardian, someone that you trust, an adult who can help you. In some cases, that adult would include law enforcement in the cases where you need law enforcement. Again, even if you don't have an adult that can help you, go to the police and talk to them about what you're going through. But never try to always solve it yourself. In most cases, you cannot solve it, right? In most cases, you don't have the tooling to figure out who's doing it and why it's happening. And if you do know, even better, that's when you should report it, because you know exactly who it is. And that means that it can be addressed. But always seek help immediately. And, I'm going to touch on something here, because this is the thing that happens the most. You're being blackmailed, right? They got a picture, a video, something in a compromising position. I understand the embarrassment factor, and I understand that you're fearful if it gets public or make it to the internet. You're not the one doing it. The person is threatening to use it against you. Again, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. Go to an adult, go to law enforcement, go to someone that can help you. And in most cases, they'll try and attempt to help you. But the other side of it is much worse if you try to handle it yourself.
Well, on that note, thank you so much, Shamir. Again, thanks again for joining us. For our guest today, thanks again, Shamir Sandler from SmartTerm and Bradley Ramcharan from Flow Business, as they shared insight into thinking before you click, protecting your digital life in Trinidad and Tobago. I learned a lot, and I hope you did as well. Don't forget to sign up to be notified on our next live show. The links are in the comments below. As always, be sure to like and follow our pages across social media so you don't miss a single live show. And have a safe and enjoyable carnival, everybody. Look forward to seeing you on the next show. Bye.